The gentleman from Virginia Beach, Mr. Miyares.
Speaker, I rise for a point of personal privilege.
Gentleman may proceed.
Speaker, I'm normally reluctant to speak in the morning hour, but so I was going through my emails yesterday, I came across this press release. It was the Engage Cuba Coalition, in which our governor was announced as the chairman of a new initiative to engage in business in Cuba. And I read this press release, 5 pages long, and I noticed that there was something missing. Obviously, he's excited to do business with the only non-democracy in the entire Western Hemisphere, but there was no mention of the dissidents in Cuba, no mentions of the prisoners of conscience. As we all know, currently in Cuba, there's no freedom of worship, no ability to dissent from a government that derives no consent from the people, from a government that has not had in 57 years a single free election. Mr. Speaker, I have said before that what separates us from Cuba and many other countries in the world is what I call the knock at the door. Here, when we hear that, that means the neighbors come over to say hello. Or in my case, Amazon Prime is dropping something off. But in Cuba, when you hear this, it means something entirely different. It means the power it be's, the government has come to take you away because you've had the temerity to speak out for human rights or worship in a church that's not sanctioned by the state or call for free and fair elections. Obviously, this is very personal to me, Mr. Speaker. I remember the stories of my own uncle who heard that knock and was taken in the middle of the night, suffered the humiliation of a mock execution, all because he didn't want to join the communist militia. I remember meeting as a child my cousin Gilberto and seeing the scars on his wrist, who spent time in one of Castro's gulags. Mr. Speaker, we talk to any of the prisoners of conscience, not just in Cuba, but throughout the world. The thing that they find the most difficult, oftentimes to grasp, it's not the beatings or the torture or the lack of food and water. It is this profound sense of hopelessness that they have been forgotten. What the governor is seeking to do, and what he wants, is obviously to engage in business and get one of these. This is a chafitos. See, the Cuban peso is so pathetic compared to American dollars that they require American businesses and American tourists to get these. So they're pegged at actually artificially inflated rates at 87 cents a dollar. It has been documented by so many outside groups. The Cuban military controls roughly 60% of the entire island's economy. So what this does is this finances the very government that oppresses its people. When the governor made his trip to Cuba last year, enjoying cocktails with the Cuban officials, and this press release brags about their great relationship, I asked publicly and called upon him to take 5 minutes to look these individuals in the eyes and say, as Virginians, we care about human rights. We care about prisoners of conscience. And so, for those people that are forgotten and so conspicuously left out of this press release, these are the faces of those 90 miles off our shore. The prisoners, Alfonso Rodriguez, Mario Hernandez, Sierra Leone. You may see she doesn't have a hand because she spoke out against the government shutting down the only school in her locality, and they sent a security force with a machete and it chopped it off. The ladies in white who march every Sunday in Cuba asking for democracy and oftentimes just asking where their loved ones may be buried that are beaten irregularly. They're not in this press release. Your Honor, over 2 million Cubans have fled that island, including, I'm standing here because at the end of the day, my mother was one of those who got on an airplane, penniless, homeless, didn't know where she was going to get her next meal. but she knew that whatever she had in Cuba, whatever faced in front of her, was better than what she was living under. And so I'm standing here on behalf of these forgotten individuals. Mr. Speaker, the governor holds the same seat as Thomas Jefferson, and as such, he has a special responsibility. Is that he holds the same seat as Thomas Jefferson, who, as we all know, said there are certain self-evident truths that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Jefferson uttered those words to the greatest empire the world had ever seen at that time, the British Empire, 241 years ago. And at the time, Mr. Jefferson uttered those words, risking his very life. Surely this governor could take the time to advocate for those same timeless principles to the Castro regime today. Thank you.